Hey, did you know you could go to ColinMullen.com in order to get art and art prints? That's why I made the website, ColinMullen.com. So hey everybody, before we get into this week's discussion, I want to talk about this painting for just a minute. This painting is one of two that I did, I want to say last week or whatever, and I actually enjoyed by the time I got done. It's that whole I hate the mid bit, and so I hated both of them, and so I kept bouncing between the two, and eventually I came out with two paintings that I'm pretty okay with. This one and then the one from 2 weeks ago, I guess it is. And I think it's okay. It's all right. It's not my best work, but it's all right. It's a little bit outside of my normal wheel well because it's a little bit more, well, it has a person in it, which is not a thing that I normally do, but changing up subject matter has been good for me. Anyway, so I want to talk about two different things that happened with AI art over the last couple weeks. A guy won a state fair. I think you've probably heard of this by this point. A guy by the name of James M. Allen won the Pueblo West, Colorado State Fair for a Mid-Journey AI art that he did. We need to talk about the vernacular of what exactly happened there. And he claims that, like anything else, that he was the one who instructed it, sort of like words, poetry being manifested. I don't think that this is the big W. I don't think this is the big win that people who say that AI art is art are really saying it is. If you look at the thing, it looks like pretty much anything that you could crank out with Mid-Journey. I've seen Mid-Journey makes very ethereal, weird sort of arts, and this is one of them. It's fine. It's not bad, but functionally speaking, he typed out a commission for a computer to complete. And a bit of side tangent here. There was a art show that failed to get off the ground that I went to, where it was a bunch of activists and me, and a lot of the activists wanted to be artsy people, but, hadn't ever picked up a paintbrush before. So when they realized that, oh, this is an art show, I actually need to do art, what they all ended up doing was collages. And I think AI art is closer to collage than anything else. Because at the end of the day, how AI art works, as far as I understand it, is it takes as many images of the thing that you type in as it can into consideration. It tries to figure out what the quintessential part of that thing that makes it the thing. So for example, if you put an apple, it has all of the images of apple that it knows of, and it tries to come up with the what is apple at its core, and then it comes up with an apple as far as it understands what apples are. So that's why they always look a little misshapen, because it's okay, well, maybe it's supposed to be a little longer on this edge or whatever. It's also why faces are particularly hard for a lot of these AI to do, because human faces are weird. Generally speaking, there's two eyes, and then there's a nose, and then there's a mouth somewhere, and it has a certain configuration, and so there's a certain level of, but also what tilt is the face at, because that's going to screw with the AI as well. So they have some trouble with faces and detail work in general. Generally, when it comes to detail work on AI art, they just sort of spatter marks and call it a day. Now, I'm going to shift gears and I'm going to talk about a different thing real quick, and then we'll come back to this. But keep everything I just said in mind for this next story. So the next story is about Loab. You probably saw it trending on Twitter the other day about this weird thing that keeps showing up for this one person who is doing art. It read like a creepypasta, like a modern day cryptid, like a creature that should not exist, like a demon in the code, which is awesome conceptually. And the idea that whenever it was put in, it was always these horrifically gory images of this woman that kind of looked like Melania Trump to me, I'll just be honest. And I think what captured people's attention on that, and why that story I think is so much more interesting, is the narrative around it. The idea of whatever is in the image is less interesting to people, and it's more about what is going on with it. And I think between these two stories, we have a little bit of something about how art works and what we think of art and how we do art. So in a state fair in Colorado, a guy won a prize because he had a very detailed but mundane and boring piece. If you look at the piece, you cannot find meaning there. There's nothing really to talk about with the image. It's, aesthetically pleasing because it's got golds and reds, and the color palette works because the AI knows what color palettes to use. The amount of work that he put in to be able to get an image that was good is that he said he wanted an image that looked like something that was pretty or whatever. And the actual aesthetics of it, as far as what are we talking about with this piece? What is the vibe I'm going for? The only thing I can really grasp onto is the aesthetics, and the aesthetics are the AI did it. And so I really can only give him as much credit for the work as that he typed it in and then walked to a convention or a state fair and said that this is his thing. I don't think this is a huge win for him. Anyone could do that. And that's often said in art communities. Oh, I could have done that. But legitimately, anyone could have done that. Anyone with access to a computer could have typed in, a key phrase and gotten that exact work. So I don't think that there's much interesting. What's interesting about Loab, however, is that Loab, this horrific creature, it's got a story behind it. There's a message behind it, and it is evocative of emotions. There's something to be grasped onto, whereas the first image is only aesthetically pleasing. And I think when it comes to people gravitate towards very pretty drawings. People like a nice field. They like a nice Roman statue. They don't really think about the implications of those things. They just like the aesthetic of it. They like the aesthetics, and there's nothing wrong with that. When you look at art that trends on, Twitter or on DeviantArt or Tumblr or Reddit or whatever, it's always a hyper detailed thing. You notice? It's never a strongly emotive piece that ends up trending. Almost rarely, especially on Reddit, it's usually just a naked woman. With Loab, however, there's this mythos that's being created alongside her, that there's this thing. And let's be clear, the artist who made it could have totally lied about that's how they got the image and all of the messed up they said. The artistry is actually in the presentation there, I think, more so than the actual images. The images are messed up and gross and graphic and all that, but the story is really what grabs you with that. The art is just an additional thing to the side, and it's neat. So I think the real artistry that the Loab person was able to come up with was that the story. So in conclusion, I think of these two stories about AI art that are in the public consciousness, the one that is more interesting to me is the one that the interesting bit is the story, is Loab, is that a human was directly involved in every element of its creation. And whether or not that image took pieces from other artists and took things from images and a catalog and stuff like that, all of the copyright and all the concerns there, what ended up happening was something that was so far from anything that could be addressed as a regular piece that we've got something incredibly interesting there. I think the people at the Colorado State Fair fell for a pretty image and judged it based on an aesthetic, and probably did not have the art training necessary to really push it much farther than that. Anyway, that's enough out of my mouth for now. I want to thank the people on Patreon who made this happen. Thank you to everyone at all tiers, but an extra special thank you to the people at the $5 tier or more. Thank you to my mom and dad. I love you. Thank you, Wapfu. Thank you, Top Houndor. Thank you, Tom K. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Terry Maverick. Thank you, Snoutpunk. Thank you, Skelecorgi. Thank you, Retrograde. Thank you, Mortis Naudus. Thank you, Maliciousness. Thank you, Kayla Hollinger. Thank you, Gala. Thank you, Dragon. Thank you, Chiptune Glitch. Thank you, Bubba Fair. Thank you, Blake. Thank you, Bep. Thank you, BD648. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Acribus. And thank you, Ants! Like Acribus, like sliding in right in between Amber and Ants, so people are like, oh, what happened to Ants? It's good. It's good. good stuff right there. Anyway, thank you guys. I hope you like this. If you did, let me know. And let me know what you think about this. It's something I'm still mulling over in my head as an idea. Like, where does the artistry begin and how much does humanity have to do with it? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hey.